6 a.m. a few weeks back. I am wide awake, tossing and turning in my bed at the Casa Susana Hotel in Puerto Vallarta. My mind is racing at this revelation that's just hit me. I am a fraud. I'm always talking about the importance of staying positive, but I've only now realized that I'm not optimistic at all. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, have you ever had those moments where life just seems to engulf you in clouds so dark that you seem trapped in some eternal bad mood? It was at that moment, at the age of 62, that I realized that I'm actually the cause of my own unhappiness. I'm my own worst enemy. Well, I wasn't going to take that lying down, so I got up. As some of you know, I have a good reputation as a compassionate person dedicated to coaching and empowering others to find their own paths for happiness and success. I myself have been lucky to have found a lot of support from wise and caring mentors who've inspired me to notice that silver lining in the dark clouds of my life. They helped me to open my eyes and find hope and gratitude. So I try to pay it forward where I can. But one secret most people don't know about me is that in my early life, it has some very dark underpinnings. I haven't always been this paragon of optimism and support, but I rarely share these childhood stories because they're filled with abuse, fear, shame, isolation, and even suicidal thoughts. And this was all before I hit puberty. Years of bullying and the brutalness of the persistent humiliations in grade school had left me hopeless. I'm just glad that at that time I had no access to guns and that school shootings weren't a thing, not in the 70s. But at age 12, I had decided to stop making any attempts to trust anyone, and I isolated myself, successfully maintaining no friends in my life until I was a young adult. And then, just as I was beginning to build those friendships, the AIDS crisis struck. I was not only diagnosed with AIDS at that time and told by my doctor that I'd likely suffer a nasty death before I'd see 30, but then I began a decade of losing many of those newfound friends to horrible deaths, including two of my beloved partners, back to back. I considered myself a tragic figure at that time. Well, who wouldn't? Living a life of such consequences that I thought no one's ever going to care when I died. As a matter of fact, they'd probably just ask, who? Needless to say, I was not the most positive person back then. I saw my life through very dark glasses. But at age 26, I started a long quest to find some healing from all this damage. I found some great therapists and others who suggested that I'm going to have to retrain this broken brain of mine. Well, I have to tell you, I didn't take that really well at the time, but it was as if I had some bad computer code in my mind that I had put in there. And it was a slow process learning to face the hard truths that I am completely responsible for the choices and outcomes in my life, and I could no longer make excuses or blame others for my negativity. After decades of self-reflection and work, I thought I had embraced the power of positive thinking. That is, until a month ago when I had that epiphany and realized I'm not optimistic much at all. The morning of my travel to Puerto Vallarta, I awoke excited to be fully packed and ready for a week's vacation with my best friend. I did what I usually do, though, at that moment, is I putzed around until I realized I was running a little bit late, and we had to jump in the car and take off for the airport while I'm breathing and just trying to calm my mind. We still had some time, so it wasn't that bad. And 5 minutes later, I realized I've left my passport at my house. We had to turn back. Well, you can only imagine the stress and the frustration. It was crazy, but I caught the mistake early, so maybe it wasn't that bad. Things only got worse from there. We encountered terrible traffic, making it almost difficult and almost impossible to get into the airport. We had to race across the airport, and I feared that the long line I'm going to have to wait into to get my boarding pass is going to make me late. And the TCA security line had almost 100 people in it that time of the morning. Who gets to the airport that early? And yet, I had to face this. I even ran the wrong direction to my gate with less than 15 minutes to board my plane. This was a nightmare. And the obstacles kept being tossed in my way constantly, and everything seemed like a battle. But actually, in truth, some good things happened. There was actually no one in the line at the Southwest ticketing desk, and I got through and checked my luggage and got my passes in no time, record time even. And even though it was late check-in, I guess I could live if I didn't get my clothes, although it did arrive on time. The TSA security line actually got all 100 people through that line in less than 12 minutes. They were on top of it, which is something I'd never seen. I even made my boarding only slightly behind where I was supposed to have been in the first place had I been on time. So actually, there had been an incredible string of luck that seemed to smooth out every barrier that got in my way. So it was only then that I reviewed all the things that had gone wrong, and yet I realized I was not noticing all the things that had gone right. So that epiphany hit me, and I realized I'm creating this foul mood. So I committed myself the next day to get up early. And I was up by sunrise, which is a rare event since I'm no morning person. And as my mind raced, I decided I'm going to go on a Zen walk. And I'm going to focus on this walk, not only in watching the sun as it comes up over this beautiful, gorgeous beach, but I'm going to look for every moment that's wondrous, special, and unique. And I'm going to take note of it every step. And it's all around me, I'm sure. So I decided I was going to take photos because that's one of my favorite hobbies. So I walked around for 2 hours along the beach and boardwalk, looking at beautiful statues, taking different angles. There were young lovers in this statue, and I actually moved into an angle and took the moon so it looked like they were reaching up for the moon together. I captured perfect pictures of the waves, even beautiful pictures of the cathedral. Well, until this van pulled up in front of me and blocked me from taking that picture. But the conclusion I have is that I'm in control. All I have to do is be willing to look at the dark clouds and seek that silver lining, and it can change my life. I just need to notice it, acknowledge it, and celebrate it.